Hey guys, it's Amy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a wonderful day as always. If you could please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Mind Squash, I would really appreciate it. And always, of course, comment with your opinions. Now we are going to get right into today's video and talk about Arthur Labinjo-Hughes. This is Arthur, a once beautiful little boy with big blue eyes and a big bright smile, until those that were supposed to love, care for, and keep him safe did anything but. These two people may look like they're good people, but under these masks were horrible, horrible monsters that destroyed a 6-year-old boy's life without any concern at all. In such a short time living with these two people, Arthur would go on to lose his spirit, lose his smile, and eventually lose his life. June 16th, 2020 was the day that everything ended for Arthur. It started like any other day for him, probably, laying on the living room floor where he was forced to sleep, even though there was a bedroom right upstairs in this house that he was now living in, the house of Emma Tustin. He was awakened on that day, just like any other day, as she would viciously rip the cover away from him to startle him awake. For what reason? Probably just to be cruel, because the 3 short months that Arthur spent under her roof was met with random cruelty for no reason, but clearly for her entertainment. And I say that because they actually had video cameras in the house to capture all of the moments that they were torturing this poor child. All of the moments that they had him standing for countless hours, up to 14 hours a day, standing fully still in the hallway. And if he made the slightest movement or tried to sit down, he would be punished further. He would be starved. He would be beaten. He wouldn't be given any water. If he was fed, he was fed stuff with so much salt that it was inedible. So he either had to eat it and be poisoned by salt or starve. While Tustin's 2 other children that lived with them were playing and being fed regularly and given water and drinks, and Arthur was being abused. And on that day, after she cruelly woke him up like she usually did, and he tried his best to fold up his duvet, that he was so weak he could not even lift. He was then taken with the rest of the family to Emma Tustin's hairdresser so she could get her hair done. He showed up there in the same pajamas he had been wearing the day before. He was dirty, filthy. His teeth were unbrushed. He was unwashed. He was just a child that wasn't cared for in any manner. You would think that going to another person's house, they would try to treat him better so no one would know of the abuse that was going on. But shockingly, very shockingly, the treatment continued even at someone else's house. While at the hairdresser's house that day, Emma Tustin was getting her hair done, and like I said, the entire family went with her for whatever reason. And the other 2 kids were outside playing and having a picnic, all while Arthur had to stand at the door, just like he did at home when he had to stand in the hallway. He was not allowed to move from that spot, or else he'd be further punished. The hairdresser and her boyfriend were shocked and disgusted by the way that he was treated and the way that he looked. And I'm not just talking about the exterior, which they already said he looked dirty and his teeth were dirty and he was wearing the same clothes. As the hairdresser's boyfriend, Tobias, got to the bottom of the stairs, he put his hand on him. He looked petrified. It was not the normal glow you would see in a kid's eyes. While the other 2 children had a picnic in the backyard, Arthur was given a ham sandwich, and apparently he took a bite and immediately spit it out. Presumably, there was just a ton of salt in the sandwich because that's what she would do to his food. She would make it inedible with salt. But of course, they started calling him a bunch of names and shouting at him. They called him a little cunt. They talked about burying him and ripping his head off, and didn't seem to care that they were saying all this in front of other people. At one point, Arthur started screaming, so the hairdresser asked what was going on. And Emma said, he's pressure pointing him. And she asked why. And she said, yeah, because it hurts. It's really shocking that these parents didn't care that other people saw that this boy was just a shell of a child, skin and bones, and dirty, and sick, and hungry. The hairdresser's boyfriend, Tobias Jarman, at one point actually gave Arthur a glass of water. They said he actually had to smuggle the glass of water to him so he could give it to him without his father or Emma noticing. And Tobias was stunned when he actually had to help Arthur lift the cup to help him drink it because he was not strong enough to bring the cup to his mouth himself. They were also stunned when they watched as Arthur's father grabbed him by the back of his neck and dragged him around. And then as they left, they watched everyone go to the car, as Arthur was so weak he could barely walk to the car and actually at one point fell. And no one did anything to help him. He finally dropped into the car and they drove away. And that would be the last time that anyone else would see Arthur except for Emma Tustin and Thomas Hughes. Upon arriving back at Emma Tustin's house, Thomas Hughes went to the grocery store and he took the other two kids, but he left Arthur home alone with Emma Tustin. And that is when he would be injured so badly that he would eventually die. Arthur would die because of severe injuries caused by Emma Tustin, a vile, awful woman that hated this boy and clearly wanted nothing to do with him, had said so for some time. She did not want him in their life, and she got rid of him. That afternoon, Arthur was first given a salt slurry. If you're like me, you probably have not heard of the term salt slurry. What I understand it to be is they basically had him eat a ton of salt and then follow it up with water to chase it down. I'm not sure if it was Emma or Thomas that gave him the salt drink. I had originally assumed that it was Emma Tustin. However, in court, Hughes was accused of poisoning Arthur with the salt in an upstairs bathroom before he had gone shopping that day. However, it was Emma Tustin's barrister that had accused him of forcing down the substance before leaving his son with Tustin, where he then collapsed with fatal head injuries. So it's very difficult to tell for sure who did this. Of course, Hughes did end up denying that he had given him the salt, but he told police that he wouldn't be surprised if a post-mortem had found issues with Arthur's kidneys. And that would have come from having too much salt intake that would injure his kidneys. So who gave him the salt on that day? I'm not sure. But he was given a poisonous amount of salt all throughout the time that he was with the two of them. So does it really matter which one of them gave it to him? Not really. And Hughes was right about his questioning Arthur's kidneys, because the doctor did say that although he did have normal kidney function, the left was a non-kidney mainly made up of scar tissue, while the right had grown larger to compensate. So there was kidney issues, probably from the salt. The amount of salt intake he had in his system that day would have poisoned him and had him basically incoherent and incapacitated within about 45 minutes of ingesting this so-called salt slurry. But it was not the salt that had killed him. It was the trauma to his head, as they would find that he had such a severe brain injury from a head trauma that he had clearly been repeatedly shaken and had his head repeatedly banged into a hard surface, being either the floor or the wall. They would find that Arthur Labinjo-Hughes actually had 130 bruises and injuries to his tiny body, including 25 sites of bruising to his scalp, face, and neck, 20 to his arms and legs, and 8 to his chest and stomach. He was bruised on every part of his body. He was beaten on every part of his body by these people. She had killed him. She had taken this weak, feeble, 6-year-old little boy and beaten him to death. Arthur would be taken to the hospital, but not right away, because Emma Tustin would wait approximately 12 minutes before she called 999 to get an ambulance to him. Before she made that call, she first contacted Thomas Hughes to let him know that Arthur's limp body was lying on the floor. And the video cameras that they had set up that were supposed to show everything that Arthur was doing wrong actually showed all of the ways that they were abusing him. And it also showed that she had taken a picture of Arthur's dead body on the floor and sent it to Thomas Hughes. And then it showed her picking up his lifeless body and carrying it around the house, trying to find the right location to put him down so that when the police arrived, they would believe all of her lies. When she speaks with police, she actually blames Arthur for his own death, that she told him to sit on his thinking step and he threw himself on the floor. She says she was provoked by him when he headbutted her. He was the one that was aggressive with her, that he attacked her. She did nothing wrong. It was all Arthur. Arthur was the reason that Arthur died. Thomas Hughes was no better. Before the cops arrived, he attempted to wake up his son by smacking his head and pouring soda on his face. And that was probably his better treatment of his son, because the things he admitted to doing when he was in court were atrocious. He treated Arthur terribly, using him as his punching bag, basically. So of course Arthur was terrified of his own family. Since he was 5 years old, that he was terrified of his own father, that Daddy is going to kill me, Daddy's going to throw me out the window. These are things that he said to people repeatedly. Yeah, sometimes kids make up stories and over-exaggerate things, but in Arthur's case, it was legit. And his father admitted to doing some horrible things to him. He told the officers he had hit Arthur if he just looked at me instead of getting up off the floor. He said I would slap him. That was 7 or 8 in force. It was hard. I'm not proud of it. If he was lying on his back, I didn't want to keep picking him up. I would put a foot on his stomach, almost to try to take the wind out of him. It paints me in a different light altogether. That would only be a 3 or 4 out of 10, just so I didn't have to keep picking him up. He said he would sometimes miss and hit the wall or the vacuum cleaner. She asked, when your son didn't react, did you hit him again? He said, not with any reasonable force. It was just a tap. He also destroyed all of Arthur's favorite things, his favorite football shirts, his teddy bear, his favorite blanket, ripped up right in front of him and thrown away. He went to the neighbor's house and apologized to them because he was worried that they could hear and that they would then tell on him. But he said that he did it because he was trying to protect Emma Tustin because he didn't think she could possibly hurt Arthur. So let's talk about her. Well, we know she did a lot to him physically, abusing him and calling him names, just like his father did. But one thing that Emma did was bringing in a naughty chair for him, which doesn't sound horrible when you think about it. It's a decent way of disciplining a small child. But the way they did it was excessive, just like everything else. So what did this naughty chair entail? Well, there was a list on the chair that said exactly what it entailed and how long he had to sit for everything that he did. And this is what it was. 1 hour for being rude to Mummy Bear, which of course we knew who that was. 40 minutes for being naughty, and 20 minutes for having a poor attitude. 10 minutes for weeing on the toilet, 10 minutes for talking like a baby, and then any additional time accrued on the chair, such as crying, telling more than once, is an extra 10 minutes on top of the already set time. I'll be honest, this doesn't seem like a horrible punishment, except for the fact that it was a very long amount of time for some of the things, at least. And it seems that although they had this list, They did tend to try to keep him on the seat for a long time, and when it didn't work, he really ended up just standing in the hallway for 10 hours a day. And they also had him stand in the shower, basically hide in the shower, anytime anyone came over, came to the door or anything, so that he wouldn't be seen, which obviously is because he was covered in bruises and injuries, and someone you would think would have noticed. Arthur was finally taken to the hospital around 3 o'clock in the afternoon of June 16th of 2020, and he would end up passing on June 17th of 2020 at 1 o'clock after they took away his life support. He was covered head to toe in bruises from both Thomas Hughes, his own father, and his father's girlfriend, Emma Tustin. He should have never been with this woman. They should have never let him stay with her. Obviously, we know now that Emma Tustin was not someone that should have been left to care for someone's child, but there were reasons from the past that made it clear as well. She had already had 2 of her 4 children taken away from her, and there had been a lot of other signs that she definitely seemed to have at least some anger issues. An ex-boyfriend of Emma's had come forward to give us a little bit of input into her mentality. He first said how she seemed to really like to get pregnant because she loved the attention of all of it, but she didn't want to actually have or care for the children once they had arrived. She just liked the initial attention. He also talked about their relationship and how crazy and possessive she was. And in one instance, he said that she had actually gotten so mad when he had decided to spend a night out with a friend that she had jumped through a window, severely injuring herself and being hospitalized. She had spent 5 months in the hospital with a shattered pelvis, fractured skull, spine, and ankle. He said he was afraid to tell social services because he was worried their baby would get taken away. But he said she was unhinged. There was another incident where an ex-boyfriend of hers had broken up with her and she had jumped off a carport, again causing serious injuries to herself. And a neighbor had also come forth and said that they had actually witnessed her chasing a boyfriend down the street with a garden spade, actually chasing her ex down the street, carrying a garden spade with her, with everyone to see. She just did what she wanted to do. And oftentimes, it was very crazy. So clearly, she should not have had any custody of anyone's child. And we found this out very clearly when she took the life of Arthur Labinjo-Hughes. And it all could have been avoided because so many people tried to help him. And yet, once again, the state dropped the ball. Again, a ball was dropped here. His family tried to help him. His grandmother, his grandfather, his uncle, even the school. They all tried to get someone to help this boy. Social services, DCF, the people that were supposed to help him, they didn't do what they were supposed to. And even the school, although they did contact social services, they didn't really do too much and kind of let it go as soon as social services said it was fine. So there was a lot of people at fault here, but the main people at fault for Arthur's death were Emma Tustin and his father, Thomas Hughes. If social services had been doing their job adequately, or at all, really, they would have realized that Arthur should have never been around Emma Tustin. He clearly should have never been with this woman. Emma Tustin was not only new to Arthur's life, but really new to Thomas's life as well, as Thomas Hughes had only just met Emma Tustin a few months earlier on Plenty of Fish. And it was when UK decided to go into lockdown that Thomas Hughes decided he wanted to spend as much time with Tustin as possible, so they moved in together. And since he now had custody, he took Arthur with him to live with Tustin, which was a really bad idea because she wanted nothing to do with him and had said so on many occasions. Honestly, it didn't seem like Thomas wanted much to do with him either, but as soon as he got with Tustin, he really wanted nothing to do with his own son. He put his relationship with his new girlfriend ahead of the livelihood and care of his own son. And that's really how all of this happened. If not for their meeting, Arthur would probably still be alive. But he had lived with his mother for his entire life up until February of 2019. His mother, Olivia Labinjo-Hughes, had loved Arthur very much and had tried her best to take care of him. But in all honesty, he was not raised very well with her either. Yes, she loved him and tried to care for him, but she had a rough life as well, which meant that Arthur's 6 years of life were all very difficult. And the reason he was taken away from his mother was because she had actually killed her boyfriend one night in a drunken, alcohol, drug-fueled rage. And that just goes to show that he obviously had a terrible upbringing from the beginning. He had a mother that loved him, but she obviously lived a very crazy, very difficult life that it was inevitable that Arthur was going to have a tough life ahead of him. When he was taken away from his mother, that was really where it all ended for Arthur. And it's very sad to see how a small child's life could end so horribly as it began so difficultly as well. Living with a mother that obviously loved him very much, but lived a very reckless life with drugs, alcohol, constant bad relationships, and letting Arthur witness things that he never should have seen. And then being sent to a home where he was stuck and didn't matter to anyone. So this is another story of a child that was not cared for, not loved, and was eventually murdered by those people that were supposed to keep him safe. I don't know if any of you happen to notice, but I find this very similar to the case of baby Sterling Harris, in which his mother, Cheyenne Harris, and father, Zachary Cohen, left him to die in a hot, dark room where they did not feed him or take care of him and basically left him there to rot. Obviously, there are differences, but there are also quite a bit of similarities, being that Arthur was left standing alone in a room by himself for the majority of every day. He wasn't fed, he wasn't given anything to drink, and he was treated terribly. The only difference is that Arthur was a bit older and he finally was killed after being beaten to death, but he was also starved almost to death, if you think about it. A lot of similarities here. It just keeps happening to children, and it shouldn't, and it's very disturbing. And a main similarity is that, again, social services did not do their job and did not take care of this child and save him from the people that eventually killed him. Where is social services when they're needed? What is going on? I understand that they have a lot of work, and I understand that a lot of them are doing their job well, but clearly a lot of them are just there for the paycheck and don't really care what happens to these kids. This statement that Arthur's mother gave, which detailed a lot of the things that Arthur loved, is interesting because it mentions all of the things he loved really seemed to be all of the things that were taken from him. He loved going outside. He was never allowed to go outside again, but just stuck in a hallway or a shower even. He loved food. They never fed him. He loved sports and his other items. They ripped him up in front of him. He loved school. They never sent him back. Everything he loved, they took away. And then eventually, they just took away Arthur. And now his mom is left to sit in jail for 11 years, knowing that she won't come home to her son. A son that, like many other kids, should have been saved, but wasn't, even though it was very obvious what was happening to him. You would think they would notice. In this particular case with Arthur, he had bruises from head to toe. He was skin and bones. It was obvious that there was something wrong with him, and yet it was ignored. They didn't look at him well enough. Even the social worker said that she looked at the bruise and didn't see anything bad, but then saw the picture that was taken just a day before and was shocked at how terrible it was. The problem is you don't believe the people that are filling you with lies. You believe the people that are in the child's life that love him, that care about him. But they ignored them and listened to the woman that was abusing Arthur. And they listened to Arthur when he was told to lie to them. I mean, show some intelligence. Show some fucking intelligence. Okay, so that's the end. This was an extremely long video, and I went kind of all over the place, so I hope you guys were able to follow it. There was just so much to cover, and I really couldn't leave too much out. So I'm going to end this, finally, by leaving you guys with just a couple clippings of a conversation that was had with a social worker discussing this case and what can be done. And please read this because it is unbelievable and ridiculous what this woman says. So check those out, and I'll see you on the next video, hopefully very soon. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye.